Yeah, that's
This is clinical practice, evidence versus experience.
absolutely correct.
And you are going to speak that for experience.
Yes.
Yeah. So can I give a quote before you start? George Bernard Shaw once said that I know everything, do not confuse me with facts.
Well, it's going to be a dangle between me and madam. But friends, let me accept in the beginning, there cannot be dangle with so many powerful, dominated Vidarbha area by these beautiful ladies. So in the beginning, I'll say, no, there is no dangle. We'll come to some conclusion. But yes, I'm going to win this. Yes, experience is going to definitely help in our practice. As you said about the quote, let's hear to this words Albert Einstein said. The only source of knowledge is experience. Every day, say for example today, all of you came here. Why? Thinking that you will get some knowledge. So you start with your day with some expectations, and at the end you go home with some experience. And that's what the basically is. Evidence-based medicine, yes, I thought madam will speak first. She'll tell us what is the evidence and how does the evidence is good. But I thought they wanted to give me the first chance. So evidence-based will keep on changing. The science is evolving, so the evidence. Most of the time data is not from local indigenous data. And if it's indigenous data, sometimes we start not believing them. So it's so confusion, and that's why it is sometimes a bias also. So do you know what is this data? And can somebody identify this picture? No. Gizeh, Egypt, isn't it? And this the same pyramid is there in our evidence. How many of you know this evidence pyramid? Raise some hands. So this is the situation. No one knows about what is the quality of evidence, what is the best evidence. Most of the time say, no, I had seen one case and that is how my evidence is based on that. And what happens is at the end, basically poor residents, all doctors, they are so burnt down. Oh my God, there are so many theories, so many situations which are occurring. But finally, we start practicing what is there in our experience. So let me take you through some of the common examples. Evidence-based medicine says normal delivery, fundal pressure should be there. No, 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 no. But most of the time, this is what happens. So boss is not around, do something. So much so, not in normal delivery, in cesarean section. We started preferring nowadays a male anesthesiologist, he can give more pressure. And then there is a problem. Then came second situation. What is that? RCOG said, no, there are no episiotomies, save the perineum. And we landed with so many complications which I have put pictures here. Then finally, all our experts said, forget it. Whether it's a primi, multi or grand multi, I'll judge myself. I'll judge myself. If it's a tight perineum, I would like to definitely give episiotomy, clean cut episiotomy. Otherwise, complications of not giving episiotomy takes so much time, it is worthwhile to do a cesarean section. Then comes basically urogynecology. I will not go into details because I have to finish. In so many surgeries, and friends, now you know what is happening nowadays. The same experts around 10 years back, they were propagating so many surgeries. Now they have changed and they are saying, oh my God, it is such a complication. Now don't do that. Come back to our original. And native tissues, they have started using it. My question is, experience is, क्या हम लोग बुरे थे? क्या हम लोग बुरे हैं? No one has treated prolapses or SUIs better than us. And that's why I'm saying we have a huge experience. We may not have published it, but yes, we can treat these patients much, much better. A simple example, when my residency days, one patient was admitted in Vade Hospital, young girl, newly married, vaginal bleeding per vaginum, history of passing blood clots. Patient was thoroughly investigated. Patient was sent to hematology. Everything about the patient is not responding. Finally, what happens? Referred to the tertiary center. Vade, we had only gynec on ops. So patient was referred to KM Hospital. And my senior most doctor, honorary came, Are, take her in the OT, just check her local examination. Under anesthesia, we checked, and it was post-coital bleeding. Friends, it is the experience which counts and nothing else. So in nutshell, what I have done, I was there in the D.Y. Patil Medical College. Now I have left D.Y. Medical College since last 1 year. So I have divided my experience in two halves. If you take first one, it's a dedicated medical teacher, whereas lot of experience I will be getting, and I will do investigations to confirm or support my diagnosis, isn't it? Whereas, now this is the second phase where I have gone in private and corporate hospital. I will talk to patient and I'll write a battery of investigations to come to the diagnosis. And that is how it has started happening. And that is what the recent trend is seen in younger generations. I don't know the madam's age actually, but the younger generations, she could looks very young, so it could be younger generations. Yes, particularly Western countries and younger generations says, no, we will believe only in evidence-based medicines, and they have blind faith in all the investigations. What is the end result? We treat more of investigations than the patients. And that's how the whole thing starts. Whereas experience-based basically is we are getting it daily, and that's what we are doing. I am practicing for 25 years. Look at that. I am practicing only. Like a game, I am practicing. So that much experience I am getting. And when experience tells you what specific investigations to be done, while examining patient, good listening, experience says when to speak and what to say, and with this we come to almost 50 to 90% of diagnosis. When there is no evidence, basically nowadays, in fact, I find that COX is becoming a notifiable disease, and if there is no confirmatory proof, basically there is a big problem. Initially we used to treat so well. So evidence-based medicine drawback is basically it has become like cooking book recipes. If these are the investigations, treat like this. If there's no investigations, again have further investigations. So what is happening now? This has become more expensive. All these corporate hospitals have fancy of investigations, and now we days also started giving more of where is our learning profession gone? It's both, it's art as well as science. But now we're forgetting it's a good art, and we are going only by investigation. So be a smart and a great OB/GYN practitioner. A good consultant will always treat a patient. A great consultant will treat a patient who has a disease, and the greatest consultant will treat a patient as a whole from history to the minimum investigations. And I want all of you to be a greatest consultant OB/GYN practitioner. At the end, we always say in PPH, we take 10 opinions. This is a sentence we say. My gut feeling is, I think we should take her for obstetric hysterectomy. My gut feeling says, no, she has got a pulmonary embolism. My gut feeling says, no, we should think about HELLP syndrome. What is this gut feelings? It is experience. Over a period of years, you have done this investigations, you have seen so many patients, and that's why it is. So friends, experience is the best teacher. Let it be your own or others. So in conclusion, I can say, according to evidence-based medicine principle, variance in practice is not allowed. 2, do you agree with the sentence? Can one evidence-based can fit all? No, it is just not possible. You said that. Does all patients respond in the same way? Never possible. All patients do not present with the same signs and symptoms of the same disease. So it's our clinical judgment, and that's why treatment should not be by just guidelines. So at the end, my opinion is experience is worth any amount of evidence. So thank you very much for patient listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ganpat. So as to say, we would also want your view on whatever both of them say.
I would like to say that evidence and experience. I would now invite all of you to this very important debate on evidence or experience. Myself, Dr. Surekha Taide, and I am going to speak for evidence. Respected colleagues, judges, my worthy opponent, what to follow in practice? Proven facts or anecdotal beliefs? What would you prescribe your own family members? Evidence or just beliefs? Yes, of course, you would like to give base to your family members. experience, long experience told us that Earth was all flat. But reality was proven. Reality proved that Earth is round. Lot of thinkers and philosophers told that Earth itself is such a great and sun goes around the Earth. That was just experience. We just found that the sun is moving from one place to the other. But experience and evidence has proved beyond doubt that it is the Earth which moves around the sun and not the other way around. Intuition. Are you going to look for intuition when you are in a catastrophic situation? There are proven protocols. There is evidence how to act. You have to go through drills how to act. The protocols are already established. In a critical situation, you can never go by intuition. And if you do not follow evidence, what will happen? Your boat will be sunk. In this case, evidence was ignored. By an experienced person, the evidence was ignored. And what we found? The boat was sunk. Yes, we have seen this so many times. We have seen this. Trust me, I have 20 years of experience. Trust me, this is my gut feeling. And what we found? This gut feeling landed us into trouble so many times. What is evidence-based medicine? Sir asks me, what is evidence-based medicine? There are three components to this. One is the research. Another very important part of evidence is clinical expertise. So clinical expertise also forms part of evidence. Apart from that, patients' values and preferences also form part of evidence. It is an integration of research, clinical practice, as well as patient values, and that is what is evidence-based medicine. Imagine you are treating a patient of severe preeclampsia at 32 weeks of gestation. Naturally, you would like to choose the best treatment. How would you choose? You would go to evidence-based medicine, and that will lead you to the proper, appropriate treatment. Why evidence-based medicine? Because we have these triple aims: improved quality, improve patient satisfaction, and reduce cost. These three things all advise us to follow evidence-based medicine. For long years, it was common practices from medieval times to 19th century, even till last 19th century, therapeutic bloodletting was the common practice. But it was proven totally wrong by evidence, and now it is completely stopped. So these harmful practices have been stopped just on the basis of evidence. Otherwise, each and every one of you would have had your blood flowing out just to treat you. So in obstetrics, what are the various evidence-based practices which we have adopted? Yes, we have adopted magnesium sulfate versus the lytic cocktail regimen, which killed so many patients. We have adopted active management of third stage as compared to expectant management. We have opted for oxytocin versus methergine, modified WHO partograph versus the long composite partograph, and so many things, single step glucose screening versus the two-step screening. Even you can see trimester specific TSH values during pregnancy have been adopted, and it has helped so many of our patients. We would never have known this if we would not have had enough evidence to support us. So these are the effective practices, and one of them, of course, is the best one is magnesium sulfate for eclampsia, which has proven so beneficial. Ineffective practices which we should forego are pubic shaving, enemas, rectal examinations. So rectal examinations in obstetrics, would you prefer that? No. Supine position, now it is very much evident that you have to give alternative birthing positions also to your patient. However, certain inappropriate practices are still going on. Many commend these practices, just telling that yes, it is based on my experience I am doing this. And because of this, what is happening? Caesarean section rates in the world are increasing day by day. Abuse of oxytocin is going on. Some parts of India, 1/3 to half of the patients are receiving oxytocin. Routine episiotomy, sir has shown, routine episiotomy is not advisable at all. Still, they are giving routine episiotomy, and genital mutilation is going on just by saying that it is my experience and I will do it. Sir has also said fundal pressure. My God, fundal pressure? Are you going to give that sort of fundal pressure? And we have seen so many problematic things happening just because of that bad fundal pressure. Even we have seen, you know, residents getting on the table and pushing. And what has happened? So can you support this sort of experience? Can you really support this sort of experience? Excessive blood transfusions have been given just because you think that it is your experience, it is your gut feeling. Never a gut feeling. That gut feeling also is based on some sort of evidence. Some sort of protocols have been given. Some clinical findings. These are not gut feeling. This is already established protocol based on some evidence. So yes, present situation, we are not able to translate the evidence into practice. Hence, many of our patients are suffering. We are deliberately allowing our boat to sink because we are not able to accept that yes, evidence is best. This no-do gap has to be filled. How will you do it? Ask the correct clinical question, appraise the evidence, and once you have asked the correct clinical question in the PICO format. What is the PICO format? Will your population benefit? What would be your intervention? Is there a comparator? What is an outcome? This proper PICO format, if you follow and you find the evidence, after finding that evidence, appraise the evidence, whether it is good evidence or bad evidence. That skill should be then in us to find out what kind of evidence it is. And yes, after appraising that evidence, you have to apply that evidence in your practice. As we said, this pyramid has been shown to us. What is good evidence? So, like Sir said, there are certain studies which are all biased, not done well, but they are not good evidence. We have to search for good studies, those studies which have been, you know, randomized properly, systematically conducted, and after that you can grade the strength of the evidence. What is this? Is it a strong evidence or a weak evidence? And depending on that, you will apply that evidence into practice, taking into consideration costs, benefit to the patient, and availability of that treatment in your hospital. So you have to apply, taking into consideration all this. Certain biases, large biases we are carrying. It is so much in front of us that you know, exercise is healthy for us, but we have some negative biases. In obstetric also, these negative biases have been going on into our mind. You know, episiotomy, we have been taught that we shouldn't give for all patients, but still we are continuing it because certain negative biases have been continuing in our mind. We have to learn to compare, to convert, to change into proper practice, comply. Why? We have to move through the timeline of an era which was medieval, era which was prior to evidence-based, and we need to learn that yes, organizational, systematic evidence is the best practice. We need to learn to globalize. We need to learn to adopt recommendations. We need to learn to adopt guidelines. Why? And also, as Sir has said, we need to communicate, counsel. We cannot consider ourselves as the biggest. You know, our egos we have to leave. We have to come together, counsel. Because in court of law, you cannot just say, I did this certain procedure because it was based on my experience. Court of law will only accept evidence, and that is how. So why, again the last question, is experience and evidence also? It is, but it is considered as a lower level of the experience, evidence, which is grade 4 evidence. So we have to convert our experience into evidence by, you know, researching, randomizing, publishing, and presenting, and ultimately training people to use evidence. And that is how, when somebody will say, trust me, I have 20 years of experience, but if you add evidence to it, then yes, we will trust you if you have experience, and also if you have evidence to show that it is the best experience. That is how we are going to learn to, you know, give the best evidence-based outcome.
Yeah, we're exceeding the
patient.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take the audience poll and then we'll give our comments.
Have done a great job.
Rebuttal, I don't think there is anything, because I don't think Dr. Surekha has rebutted anything. How many for experience? Only. Ganpat, we know your hand, you don't have to take up. Only 3. How many for evidence only? All right. I think... no, it's not a tie. I think I just want to take 2 minutes to sum up something. I think Ganpat said that you should not do evidence-based medicine because nobody understands the evidence pyramid. I don't think that is a good enough excuse. And he suggested that practicing evidence-based medicine... I'll just come to that. I've got a chance to take a dig at you. Why can't I leave it? And that evidence-based medicine increases your expense, which again is not true. But he said a very important thing. He said, people have done enough, they have not published. If they had published, it would have become evidence. And that is where your experience comes in. If I was on Dr. Surekha's side, I will define experience is your ability to do the same mistakes over and over again with increasing confidence. But unfortunately, experience is very, very important. And I think where Dr. Surekha came into the issue is two important issues. It's translating evidence into practice. We completely agree with Dr. Ganpat. It's just many of the people do not know how to apprise an evidence. When you are apprising an evidence, you need to understand whether that can be extrapolated into your situation, whether your geography, your patient characteristics and your economics allows it. And number 3, whether did it have enough power to make that conclusion, and that is translating evidence into practice. The third important bit is in obstetrics especially, less than 1/3 of the interventions are evidence-based. On the rest, we do not have evidence. What do we go by? We go by experience. So I think Dr. Surekha put it in a slide that clinical management is a mixture of evidence-based medicine, is a mixture of applying that evidence which requires clinical expertise and taking the patient's preferences into being. So we cannot have a debate on whether evidence or experience. I think we need to accept that we need both evidence and experience. And I think apart from the 6 hands which went up, they're waiting for this. How many for evidence and experience? Yeah, there you are. Madam, concluding words. Madam used to be my professor when I was a lecturer.
As I said, you may be a great doctor, teacher, clinician, but you are one of a minority. We have to deal with everybody. So for a standard management may not be for everybody. Medicine is always individualized. But if you want to document something, if you want to know an outcome, you do need certain standardized things. And so forget about the debate. We think that both of you did a great job, and as the audience has shown, neither of them believe in any one. They believe in both. What do you think?
I'm sure the speakers also don't believe in anyone. They've been forced into this.
So, what is your opinion?
No, absolutely. I think you need to understand evidence. You need to be able to appraise evidence. If you do not have that skill, then follow the guidelines. That is what they do. And in which there is no evidence.
They were both excellent.
Yeah, as between the two. We
because
don't even attempt
both
that.
debate, so we agree both of you won.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.